So in this video I want to introduce not only the Fire of the Heart book, but the Fire of the Heart course, which I'm going to be offering here in Portugal, in Lisbon and Porto for sure in 2020, and possibly in Braga if there's enough people interested there. So the course that I've developed is going to take you on a journey through all the main themes of this book. So that's going to include discovering and awakening to the fire of the heart, which is the metaphor I use in the book for our true nature, for our true liberated, limitless, awakened self. So it's going to be an introduction to how to discover that. It's going to be a deep dive into the practice of what I call true meditation and into self-inquiry, so you can always maintain access to this deepest dimension of who you are, not only when you're sitting on the meditation cushion, but when you're walking and talking and functioning in the world. It's also going to be an introduction to what I call in the book wide open wonder, which is really how to recover and discover our fundamental innocence, and to discover a sense of ever newness and receptivity to an ever-present mystery in the midst of simply being conscious. Then it will also go into the whole matter of ego and the false self, that is really all of the patterns and structures that we carry that inhibit our true and free and full expression as a liberated human being. So we go very deeply into what ego actually is, how to understand and recognize it in your experience, but most importantly, how to transcend those patterns and over time make them obsolete, so you actually begin to free yourself from everything that's limiting and separating and binding you, and start to grow into a full and complete fruition of your humanity. Also, this journey will go into not only transcending ego and freeing ourselves from everything that binds and limits us, but also in how to live an awakened life and how to become a vehicle for what we could call the creative face of spirit. And this is very much where the fire comes in. It's all about transformation. It's all about the evolution of the human race and of human culture, and all about the potentials that come into being when we make ourselves available for a purpose that transcends our own personality and our own individual life. And also when we become available to that, there's a potential to come together with other people, other awakening souls, to give birth to what I call in the book a higher awakened we, which is really about the potential for a collective emergence into an awakened consciousness. So the course is going to go through all of those themes that are in this book, but it's also going to go into some additional themes, which include areas such as cultural development, learning about how we've been conditioned by culture through the ages and how we carry that within us, and also how we can transcend it and go into the next phase. I'm going to take you into a deep discovery and inquiry into the essence of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. And by that I mean discovering the masculine essence, which we could equate with Shiva, as it is in Indian Vedanta, and the feminine essence, which we could equate with Shakti. So we're going to go into that polarity of Shiva and Shakti, and how to liberate both of those polarities within ourselves as men and as women, which really leads to a potential of what we could call liberation beyond gender, and at the same time becoming most authentically an expression of being embodied in a male body or in a female body. And then we'll also go into the whole very wild and fascinating terrain of sexuality, which of course is an area that almost everybody's interested in, and it's also an area where most people create a lot of suffering for themselves and each other. It's often one of the most challenging areas to get very clear and really have a liberated relationship to. So we'll be going into that whole theme. What does it mean to have a liberated relationship to our sexual nature, whether we're embodied as a man or a woman. And also I'll be going into what I call this esoteric, subtle anatomy of our embodiment in physical form. So that's going to be going into some of the more subtle energetic dimensions of the awakening process. So all of this I'm offering in the Fire of the Heart course. It's going to start in 2020 in May, and it'll be over a period of 6 months, from May through till probably early November. And it'll be 6 sessions in 2 parts. So part 1 will be 6 sessions up until August, and then we'll come back in September, and there'll be part 2, which will be another 6 sessions. If you're interested, you only have to commit for the first session, so the first part, sorry. So if you decide after part 1 that you don't want to continue, well then you can leave it there. But if you decide, no, you want to go deeper, then you can join me for part 2. And so I can promise you that this is going to be a very liberating, fascinating, enlightening journey. And not only individually, but also collectively, because as we meet together every 2 weeks, there's a collective field of awakened inspiration and vulnerability and transparency and trust that starts to build between everybody in the whole group. So if you want to find out more about the Fire of the Heart course, then click on the link below and you'll see everything outlined there.